Now, yesterday, towards the end of the talk, towards the part on, we begin to differentiate, to begin to discern what are the suitable objects for vipassana and what are not the suitable objects for vipassana. Objects you can be directly known. Those objects that you can be directly known, they fall under the suitable objects. And in objects that is created by the mind, and those objects that are created by the mind, they are not the suitable objects for vipassana. So these two, we have to discern them out in order for the vipassana to take up the right objects. This is what we call the gochara sampajanya, the clear comprehension of domain or boundary, something like that, an area. What are the areas that you are supposed to take up? What are the areas that you are supposed to be in? And what are the areas that you are not supposed to be in? So here it means the objects of the meditation. And sometimes in the text, they summarize what are the objects. Those objects are the four foundations of mindfulness. The objects of four foundations of mindfulness. Objects of the body, the different elementary forces. The second one, the feelings, the various kinds of pleasant, unpleasant, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant feelings or neutral feelings. And then we have the different states of the mind, angry mind, sleepy mind, clear mind, and so on. Then we have the Dhammanupassana, the objects of Dhamma. Here the objects of Dhamma here means you begin to see the conditionality of objects. For example, you begin to see the 5 hindrances. How these hindrances arises. When they arise, how is the nature? How do they disappear? This is fall under Dhammanupassana. For example, like 7 factors of enlightenment. What are the factors there? Mindfulness, clear investigation of Dhamma, joy, effort. Then you have concentration, we have tranquility, then we have equanimity. So these states of mind also can be directly known. And you can see how they arises when the condition is there. When they are not there, how do they disappear? So here, all these objects, many objects of them fall under the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So these objects can be directly known. And you have to differentiate as a yogi to also know that which object that you should not take up. But it will come to you. Every yogi, all these 2 types of objects, suitable objects and not suitable objects, they will come to you every time you go for a retreat. Yesterday I mentioned about the thinking process, for example. If you are in the story, if you are in the content of the thinking, then here inside the content of the thinking, you are not taking up the right objects of vipassana. It may be thinking about the past, present, or future. It may be thinking about the Dhamma also. You may be thinking about the Dhamma. You may be thinking about something wholesome. You may think about some dana thing, about sila thing, about meditation thing. Even if you were to meditate there, then suddenly you think about the talk. Those things, if you're not careful, they can become more and more, and it can become restless mind if you entertain it too much. So, we have to be careful, especially when it comes to these objects of when you are sitting or walking. A yogi must able to not to get caught up into it. And I'm sure every time you come for a retreat, even today also, you'll be already caught up into all the thoughts and thinking and the fantasy and imagination. I get caught up into it until suddenly we realize that we're not supposed to be in. Then you come out from it. So you come out from it. That is another quality where the mindfulness starts to kick in. The nature of mindfulness called non-forgetfulness. Non-forgetfulness. Appamada. Just now we recited it. Appamada sampadeta. Non-forgetfulness, or other word, mindful. Because when you are inside the thoughts and thinking and imagination and so on, that's forgetfulness. But when you remember about your objects again, then it comes back to the present. Then suddenly you're aware, this is something that I'm supposed to do. Then with that you begin to see a differentiation. You begin to discern. This is the right, this is not so right. This is right and this is not so. This is suitable and this is not suitable. You begin to discern these two. I'm sure if your mindfulness kick in, even in your meditation right now, or just this morning or afternoon, you will see this process that the mind begins to pull it out from those imagination. In the beginning part of our meditation, these thinking, imagination, thoughts, they are a lot. Sometimes sometimes devotees have a very wrong idea that you ask them to go and meditate, they say, cannot. My mind is thinking too much. I cannot meditate. I'm not the type to meditate. They have all kinds of excuses. So a lot of times they do not want to meditate because they thought that the mind is thinking too much. But here the mind can always be trained if they want it to be trained. The Buddha call it like a wild horse. But it can be tamed down. It's only you need certain skills and certain strategy to calm it down. So these thoughts, this thinking, they can be a source of a problem for especially those who love to think. How come we think so much? All of us think. When we begin to think, we begin to have satisfaction in the thinking. We feel good about the thoughts. And the more you feel good about it, the more you want to think about it. You feel that your thoughts is great, your thoughts is wonderful, your thoughts is right, and you want to share it with the whole world. You begin to imagine everything while you're sitting or while you're walking. Or even in everyday life also. We get delighted with our thoughts. We get satisfaction with it. And the more satisfaction we want to think, and we want to have, we want to judge, we want to have an opinion, and so on. All behind it, there's the craving that is playing its role. But it's all covered by the satisfaction of thoughts and thinking and so on. So we live in a very conceptual world. But in the Vipassana, we have to break that habit, at least for a while. Not to say that you cannot think after you finish a retreat, If you finish a retreat and after that you cannot think, then something wrong with you already. If you go back, you cannot think, then how are you going to eat? How are you going to talk? All these things you need to think. Even the Buddha also can think, not to say cannot think. It's just that they don't have restlessness or attachment to their thoughts. They still have thinking. Not to say they don't have. But they don't have a restless mind. Whenever the thoughts they want to stop, it will stop. But for lay people, for non-arahants, whenever your thoughts starts, it just go on like a train. Unless you are in the meditation. In the meditation, sometimes the mindfulness kick in, it stops the train of thoughts. Just like if you are doing it properly over here, the thoughts can be stopped. So the thinking process, if you come out from the thinking process, you begin to see the process of thinking that is present right now. Because sometimes when you're out from the story, you're out from the content, the thought still doesn't disappear. It's still there. Now, when it's there, the first thing you need to do is to learn to accept them as they are. If you don't accept these thoughts, you may start to think, how come they are still there? How come it's still kacau? How come it's still disturbing me? Because if you have these thoughts, although you're aware of it, but you are not taking it rightly, you are taking it as something to disturb your meditation object, then the unwholesome mental states, especially the ill will, the anger, will start creeping in from the background. Then after that, your mindfulness disappears. So, while the thoughts are still there, you got to learn to accept them as they are. And while you accept them as they are, you got to see the changes of the thoughts and the thinking process. See how the thoughts keep changing from one thought to another thought to another thought. Sometimes the thought can come with happiness. Then you note happy, 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 happy. If it comes with sadness, you note sadness, 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 sadness. Sometimes there's joy inside there. You note joy, 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 joy. You begin to see the relationship of the thinking and the other mental factors that is connected with it. Then you begin to turn the thinking into a meditation object, into a third satipatthana or fourth satipatthana, depending on how you look at it. Yeah? You begin to turn your great enemy into your stepping stone, because that thinking, by noting it arouses even more mindfulness and clarity, concentration, and so on. So don't underestimate it. Sometimes you come to a Friday class or Monday class at night over here, In the beginning part, we cannot ask you to do like that. We cannot ask you to, you sit down, If your thinking comes in, you're not thinking, see how it joy everything. You think you can? Cannot. You cannot do that yet because your quality of your mindfulness is not strong. But as a yogi, there's a difference. As a yogi, you need to see it as it is. To see it in a sense of when it changes. When it comes, you really knows it. How it changes, you get more, you get less. You can able to describe it. But for a beginner, if you come in just for a one-day class, one-day retreat, not so easy. Every time for, let's say, 1 year, how many classes you have? 12 classes, isn't it? 12 days only. Here, this yogi here, sekali, 14 days. But the 14 days and 12 days, you don't think that it's all the same. They are not the same. Continuity of practice is not the same as just one day practice here, next month you practice another one, next month you practice another one. No, it's very, very different. Because of the continuity is there, therefore you can able to do this way. Only when you are in retreat, you can able to do this way more clearly. And you can see the process changes, and you can see how the thoughts disappear. You can see actually how the thought arises. And sometimes you can feel that it's going to come out. By the time it's going to come out, you pay attention to it, it's already disappeared. So you begin to differentiate what are the right way of noticing this thinking and what are not the right way of noticing the thoughts. So other words, in brief, when you go into the story, when you go into the concept, then you are out of vipassana and you are out of satipatthana, at least for a short while. Hopefully you can come back. But concept goes into a little bit more, not just into our thinking only. It goes to all the senses that we have. The other 5 senses also. What do you mean by the other 5 senses? Here, it starts from the eye door. Then what else? The ear door. Then nose, tongue, touch. The 5 senses, 5 external senses. Now these 5 external senses also got its own concept. And you got to be careful as a yogi. When you walk, at the end, if you are walking upstairs, you come to the window, you scan down, who is it? What building is that? What are they doing? You know what I mean right now? You all do that, don't you? Already, then you look who is down there. What are they doing? Now here is connected with the eye. Eyes, not the eye. Eyes. Now it's connected with the eyes. The concept that arises from the eye, because right now you are defining what you are seeing. You are seeing a person. You're seeing a sayale, for example. You see a building. You see a building. The mind process it. Oh, this building. The name is so and so. This nun is so and so. This monk is so and so. This object is this way. This object got that color. This object in this. So your mind keep processing the thinking right now. So it comes. The concept comes from the eye door. It comes from the eye door. Then you start a lot of thinking. So, if you are not careful, just now while you are walking, lifting, pushing, dropping, and then you are knowing what you are doing, but when it comes to the end, you are not careful, then the mind already goes out into conceptualize the whole world. Or what is in front of you. Very fast, your mind switch into concepts. Already out of the whole vipassana. So simple as that. Then after that, come gone, you feel good already. Then intention to turn. Oh, then you turn. Then you come back and then you start all over again. Then after that, lifting, pushing, dropping. The other end, you did it all over again. That's what we do. A lot of us do in this way. But no matter how much I tell you, tomorrow you will do it also. Because this is our desire. Even at next retreat, you come back, you will still do it again. But what is important, you know this is not right. And this is what is right. Then only you can able to switch back. If you do not know this is not right, then you will always be like that. Your attitude will be like that. Then the progress will be very slow. It's not that tonight talk, tomorrow you will enlighten. No. It's not going to be like that. My job is to make sure that you know these two, and then you know how to come back again. Because nobody is going to stand beside you. Nobody can able to read your mind. So next time when you stand there, if you happen to see something, instead of processing the mind into thinking that this is so and so, this is building, this is color, this is a book, and this is what not and what. And here, instead of paying attention to that, then you hold the mind back on the eye door. That's why the teachers will ask you to do not seeing. Because we do not want you to go further than that into conceptual world. But if you pay attention in this way, you're not seeing. Long enough, when your mindfulness becomes more clearer, you can see the changes, the arising, passing away of the consciousness in the eyes. And sometimes even you note in this way, it kind of like your eyes doesn't focus on the front so much. You kind of get blurred a little bit because the mind is not going out. The mind is just looking inside. So when it's looking inside, the eyes also doesn't focus that clear. It goes a bit blurry. It's perfectly all right. It's perfectly all right. And you're supposed to do it again and again as best as you can. We will forget, but you must learn to try. If you don't try it, those habits, those concepts were just so easily for the mind to switch over into concept instead of paying attention to the suitable objects. So too with hearing. Somebody talking, because it's easy for us to process the words, When I was in Burma, when you meditate in Burma, this is one thing good. No matter what they talk, you do not know what they are talking about. So it's just all noise and hearing, good. Here is different. Here if you talk Hokkien, if you talk English, immediately the mind just log in and you can understand it. Talking about me. No, please talk. No, the whole concept, the whole I is so easily to get aroused and to get affected by it, because so far so easy for the mind to able to understand the whole concept. It's so easily for us to go into concept, and therefore when we listen to it, the whole train of our thoughts starts keep going and become very restless. So if you don't note in the beginning part, hearing. So here, this is important. Or sometimes in the taste door, sometimes in the tongue door. Now you notice the tongue door when you're eating, you're biting, you're chewing, you bite, chewing. Then after that you taste something. Oh, this is a bit soft. Then you gag out already, You extra this one, you think, wow, today's fish are very nice. It's a bit crunchy. There you are. You already cross into concepts. Your job is to stay, is it hard, is it soft? You just know it's hard, it's soft. There. But it's so easy for the mind to go into conceptualize, this is a vegetable and eating. This is a meat that I'm biting. This is the beef, it's so tender right now. Then it's all your greed comes in. This is how our everyday life, all our greed comes in that way. Because we conceptualize what we are eating. We are keep on processing the mind, and every process that is going through, the desire just keep going. If not the desire, then it's the dislike. Or is the dislike, if you taste it too salty, today don't know who is cooking this food. So much salt. Anger arises. So It's so easy for the mind to switch from into concept if we are not careful. That's why while we are eating inside there, while we are eating, biting and so on, make sure that we try to stay with the concept. Try to stay with the right objects and not the concept. Stay with the biting, chewing, swallowing and so on, and go inside there. And then next time, the next scoop. Not holy, not nice or not, this one good or not, this one fish lah, this one is going to make me more healthy lah, this one will give it for my eyes lah, this one is for my liver lah, this one you go back and do lah. Now is not the time for you to do all these type of things. Now you just eat lah, whatever is suitable to you. But of course, there are always you got to be careful. If you bite something hard like a bone, then you just don't note it as bone. No, it's hard, and you swallow it in. So you got to be careful a little bit. There are limitations. There are limitations to it if it's endangered to you and so on. Of course, we got to bring in our concepts and so on. This is a bone. Then you make sure you take it, pull aside. Sometimes yogis, they are so... because they learn about all these things. Sometimes the yogi become like emotionally dry, Emotionally dry. No feeling. No feelings, nothing. Sometimes, for example, they meditate, and then suddenly, let's say a yogi beside one yogi, and then that yogi suddenly fainted, Then you slowly turn on your head, seeing, then you come back again, and you sit, rising, falling. No, not that way. You got to learn to help. Not like suddenly inside there, you cannot do like that. So there are limitations, okay? You must see that everything is, the condition is right. Until if there are people, there are yogis once in a while, not to say everybody, but once in a while they are really emotionally very dry. Just because that they begin a meditator, all these things they don't touch, they don't this one, they again. So don't fall into that aspect. We're here to teach you not to become like that. My job is to make sure that you're able to differentiate it through, but then there are certain situations you must learn to adapt. So do be careful. Taking note of these objects. Now, there are even more further aspects of the concepts. And sometimes the concept and the something that's created by the mind and the actual object that you are noting, they look so similar. So, like it's just overlap. And if you're really not able to differentiate it, you're not able to discern it, sometimes you can caught up with the wrong object. Because take for example, these objects become very so close together. Sometimes once in a while you get yogis who come to meditate and then they come to reporting. When they begin to report, let's say they report on their rising and falling. Well and good, they report on their rising and falling. But after that, when they report the rising and falling, then they begin to describe the rising and falling. They begin to describe in the rising and falling is so dramatic, like, say for example, there's one yogi in some time back. He report the rising falling. My rising falling is like a snake, But then the snake is going up and down, going here, going there, and then the snake is going in. He's more interested in the snake than in the rising and falling. So the imagination of the imagination while he is watching it, it's like the concept of a snake as if like it's following the whole thing around. the whole rising, falling. But it feels so real. It feels so good to have those things. Yeah? So the conceptual aspect of it becomes so clear at a certain juncture. So you got to be careful not to get caught up in all this imagination that comes in together with the movement of a rising, falling, of a leg, and so on. Sometimes some people imagine that the leg is being dragged. If it's heavy, as if you are tying a stone, dragging it. Sometimes there's a bit of imagination coming in. We understand that. But you must not learn to prolong the whole thing. Because this yogi, sometimes when they get caught into that imagination, in the next sitting also, they want to have that imagination to get touched onto that particular object. And again and again and again. So they are more interested in the concept rather than in the actual object of noticing. Yeah? Yeah. And sometimes, due to our understanding of the Dhamma, and over the years you've been listening to the meditation talks, different kinds of meditation talk, then you begin to also listen to like impermanence, dukkha, anatta, things like that, no? Desire, mindfulness, those type of things that you begin to listen. So here again, the yogis tend to want to compare the observation that is going through in the sitting or in the walking. Then you want to imagine that. Not imagine. You want to overlay the whole concept of, let's say, impermanent. Let's say impermanent. You want to overlay onto the object that while you are paying attention. Not to say that the yogi cannot pay attention. The yogi could pay attention because the mind is fast. The idea of impermanence, the concept of impermanence begin to overlap onto the object. When it begin to overlap onto the object, the yogi sees this object changing a little bit here and there, but the yogi now is more interested into the concept of impermanence that say, oh, now I see the object is this way. Now, this should be impermanent. What can it be? It cannot be dukkha. Because right now, let me look in the books. Let me remember in the books. The book was saying that it was arising, passing away, this changing, that changing. Got or not? Yeah, got a bit. So, you begin to match what you want to see and what with this object. And you feel that, wow, you get up, you feel good. Impermanent wow. I can see impermanent. Wow. Or some people, sometimes they have different insight level. Yeah. You got first insight, second insight, third insight, fourth insight, and so on. The insight jnanas and vipassana jnana and so on. Yeah. So they watch this a little bit rising and falling, a bit changes. Hey, this one is the fourth jnana already, rising and passing away already. You see, it come, it go, it come, it go. You see, I see the fourth jnana already. Wow, happy. Boy, go. Sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's so far away and all that. So they just, overestimate their practice. A lot of yogis are like that. They'll overestimate their practice, and then after they go back, wow, I'm the fourth jhana already. You go back and tell everybody, sit down on the table. You know what, my fourth jhana is like this. I sit on the table. I tell everyone. Then you expect everyone else to swallow your experiences. Yeah. These are all the the yogis. Now once they get some experiences, they want to share it with the whole wide world. Honestly, each and every one of us, the experiences of the inside, rising, falling, sitting, touching, pain, walking and all that. Every one of us are very individual. We are just like an artist. Nobody paint the same thing. But the principle, the same thing. The same principle. Principles, for example, if you are talking about the body, if you're develop it right, then you will see the hardness, softness, warmness, coldness. It falls into the elementary forces. These are the principles that you will see. But how it comes, how it changes, how it appears to the yogi, each one of us are very different. So if you tell your experiences to a group of people, they may not know what you are talking about. So sometimes some yogis, they can sit down there, they can argue about their experiences. Oh, my experience, no, you cannot be that experience. Mine is like that, right? Like it cannot, and then argue. You're talking about you're talking about the same thing from a different aspect. So, experiences of a yogi can be very different. But the principle that if you pay attention to the same thing, they are all the same. The same principle like hardness, softness, warmness. If you notice the pain and so on, the feelings, they are all the same principle. But how they appear to you, each and every one of us are very, very different. So, here, pay attention to the right objects, to the proper objects. Don't get caught in the conceptual world. So the concept can be very close to you, and you may thought that you can overestimate your practice. You can think that this is impermanent and this is dukkha or this is anatta. I mean, once in a while, if you get caught into it, but again, you must remember, get out from it. If you don't get out from it, you get stuck there because you thought that you see all the impermanence that needs to be seen, whereas there are even more for you to see. We thought that just because that we feel this pain you thought you see all kinds of dukkha already. Here pain, buttock pain, head pain, everything pain. I fully acknowledge the dukkha already. You only see one small area of dukkha only. You thought that you would see everything about the dukkha. They are more deeper than that. They are much more deeper dukkha than that. If we just see all the pain here, pain there, dukkha already, then no need to come retreat. You stay at home, feel the pain, also get enlightened already. More than that, much more than that. Then anatta and so on. So here, what I'm trying to say here is that whatever that we pay attention to, objects that we pay attention, changing and all that thing, don't put your commentary, don't put your opinions, put your judgment into it. Keep it bare. Put this aside. Although that the habit wants to come in, but you must remember to keep it aside. Pay attention to the objects again and again. Don't get caught into the conceptual thing. Because here again, if we go back 2 days ago, I talked about the different types of wisdom factor, or different type of wisdom. The experiential wisdom and the conceptual wisdom. The experiential wisdom is what you need here in order for the vipassana to develop, not the concept. It's the experiential wisdom that you see directly. That experiences will eradicate the defilements, not the thinking, not the opinion, not the concept. But doesn't mean that the concept is no good. The concepts are helpful. You must be able to understand what we are talking about here in order for you to gain some degree of experience to practice the meditation. But while you're in the meditation, you got to put those things aside. Not to bring in the concept too much into and mix it up with the whole process of vipassana. A lot of times we have this problem. A lot of times. So a yogi must learn to differentiate this area. There are even more deeper, non-suitable object, but it looks so real to you. It's even more deeper than all this, sometimes all this thinking and so on. Think, for example, these things, and it will come to every yogi also. As you go deeper into the practice, your concentration, your mindfulness, your effort becomes even more balanced, become more clearer. And even more clearer, that means your concept, the mental creation of the mind, is even more clearer than before. Take, for example, a simple example. Sometimes when you meditate, you can able to remember things back to 20 years ago, 30 years ago that you didn't sort of like able to remember while you're in everyday life. But while you are meditating, the whole memory can stream back to the past, and it can recreate the whole scene inside you, as if like it's just yesterday. It feels so real. But there are imaginations of the mind. It becomes so real, as if like when you close the eyes and you open the eyes, they look the same, as if, Take, for example, there are some people out because of faith, due to their faith. Then when they meditate, especially sitting, they can recreate a Buddha, for example. Or they can recreate a monk. They can recreate the Buddha as if like the Buddha actually comes to talk to them. Comes to actually talk to them. You can see the face, the eyes, the nose, the vision, so real, so clear. As if like you close your eyes, open the eyes, it doesn't look any different. You think you won't believe me if nobody were to guide you? You think that sometimes with this type of imagination, creation of the mind, they thought that this is something, a progress in the insight, something, a vipassana, deep state of vipassana, and you're going to pursue into that particular path. The rising, falling, sitting, touching, all pain, you don't want to play anymore. You put it all aside. You want to sit down, every sitting, you want to recreate that Buddha to you. If you don't recreate the Buddha, sometimes it can be a scenery. It can be a temple. It can be anything. And then you begin to believe that those things are really real. For example, there are people who can recall very clearly as if to their past memory. And then they said, I really have past life power. The super normal power, of able to see the past life. Although it's real, although they are very real, but sometimes they are all imagination of the mind, creation of the mind. But if you are not careful, you get caught up with it. And you get caught up with it, you think that all these are wonderful, real. You have a special normal powers, and so on. Or sometimes the mind can recreate colors, just like every one of us over here. Sometimes this color, that color, and every color. They are all creation by the mind. When they create by the mind, again, when a yogi doesn't been guided properly, then the color, you thought that this color is something wonderful, something great. Bhante, I've never seen this color before. What does it mean now? What does it mean now? Am I getting into deeper insight already, Bhante? They're so eager because those things are so real. So if you get caught into these colors, this imagination, especially when it comes into a deeper aspect of meditation, they can be very real. So real that, as if, as I said, when you close your eyes, whether you are sitting, whether you open the eyes, it doesn't make any much difference. All yogis will go through that one time or another. If you do not know how to steer yourself out from it, If you do not know how to differentiate between which one is the suitable object to take up, which one is not the suitable object to take up, most of the time, if you do not have the knowledge of it, you will take up the object which is pleasant to you. And the pleasant one is the creation of the mind. The unpleasant one will be your pain here, rising, falling there, and so on. You see? Here, don't underestimate what the mind can do. Don't underestimate what the defilements can do. Don't underestimate just because that we practice for 20 years, 30 years, there's nothing going to happen to me. Unless you are enlightened, Other than that, those defilements can be very strong. And they can be very manipulative, and they can be very subtle. When it comes in, you don't even know that you already get caught into it. And these people, when they get caught into it, sometimes if there's nobody to guide them, or sometimes there are wrong teachers to guide them, then the teachers will tell them, very good. You can see color, very good. You can see past life, wonderful, marvelous. Carry on, do some more. Then you think the yogi, what yogi will do? Do some more. Color and more color and more color. Then after that, one day, he thinks that maybe this is most probably enlightened already. What else is there be? Because all the time I've been seeing this thing, should be enlightenment already. Then one day you can ask the teacher, is this enlightenment or not? Yes, enlightened already. Then you everybody roll in the mud now. The mud of ignorance. You get rolling, and then what do? You come out and teach. You teach what? You teach everybody to see the light also. You teach everybody to see what you have seen. Then you get caught up into it. The whole generation of yogis will get caught into all these type of things. This is not small matter. This is matter that people like you, seeking for a spiritual path, seeking for a spiritual enlightenment, but get caught up with all our cravings, and yet we do not know about it. And you feel that your ego and so on is so great. So, these type of things can be very dangerous. There are other times, perhaps I can elaborate more things about these things. But what I'm trying to say here, coming back to the topic here, is that you must learn to differentiate what is the right objects, what are not the right objects, what are not the suitable objects. If you can able to differentiate these things, it will be very helpful to you. Very, very helpful to you in the long run of your practice. When even then there's not, the teachers may not be there all the time, but at least you can guide yourself out from the craving or the attachment of the internal craving, internal attachment. So this is on the third type of sampajanya, the domain. The domain, clear comprehension of domain or clear comprehension of a boundary. So you know that the right objects falls within the four foundation of mindfulness. The objects that we ask you to pay attention to, this hardness, softness, warmness, coldness, pain, and so on, and then what are not the right objects for you to pay attention to. So, now if the yogi can able to differentiate these two, then it comes to the next sampajanya, the fourth sampajanya, the fourth clear comprehension. Here, the fourth one is called the clear comprehension of non-delusion. Asammoha sampajanya. Asammoha. Asammoha here means, actually directly translated, is non-deep delusion. Not just amoha, but asammoha, non-deep delusion or stark delusion. So this fourth area of sampajanya is another area where you exercise your wisdom factor. in your meditation. You exercise your wisdom factor while you're doing a vipassana retreat. Now, just now, as I said, you're able to differentiate the two. Which is not the right one, which is not the suitable one, and which is the suitable one. Now, when you take up the suitable one, then here again, we got to discern the various objects out. All right? You got to discern the various objects out, because the nature of wisdom factor is for the process of separating out. Until now, for the past 2 or 3 days that we have talked about this subject, the wisdom factor has the quality of discerning, separating, segregating. What does it segregate? We talk about cause and effect. This is the cause that you see, this is the effect. Or these are the causes, these are the effects. Or sometimes it becomes like causes, effect, causes, effect, causes, effect in a stream. Not just one go, but in the stream. You see a different causes and effect. The effect later become the causes, then the causes, after it shows the effect, and so on. Yeah? So you begin to differentiate between this cause and effect. Discerning power. Then after that, not only just able to discern this one, but also the mind able to discern the next sampajanya is you able to discern what is beneficial or what is not beneficial to you. In other words, behind it is you can able to discern what is wholesome and what is unwholesome directly. And what is wholesome and what is more wholesome directly. Not somebody talk about it, but you can able to see it for yourself. The different types of differentiation. Yeah. So sometimes you see, why is it that the text got, you talk about this wholesome and why it got unwholesome? Because those things can be directly known by a yogi. You can able to notice this too. Then after that, the third type of sampajanya. The third type of sampajanya is the gochara sampajanya, a clear comprehension of domain. Which domain or which boundary of objects that you are supposed to be in, and what are not the objects that you are not supposed to be in. So you can able to differentiate, segregate, discern what is the suitable object, what is not the suitable objects. So you begin to see the factor of that wisdom is to help you to discern this thing apart. And you are going to exercise this along the whole career or while you are as a yogi. 2 weeks, full-time yogi is your full career for 2 weeks. Yeah? Half a day. You want to stay for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year. This is that you are supposed to exercise. Again and again. Now when it comes into the fourth one, the asammoha sampajanya, then here, if you already get the right objects, now you're going to differentiate it further. Now you're going to differentiate it further in order to see the true nature of things as they are. In order to see the true nature of things as they are. Just before we go, just go back to a more simple talk. In this body, what are the 4 elements? What are 4 elements? Water, fire, earth, and wind element. Okay. 4 major elements, elementary forces. Now here the 4 elementary forces here, it connotes, it connects to a certain quality. A certain quality. Not wind as a wind, not earth as earth, not a soil or something like that. Although in samatha meditation we look into the concept, but in the vipassana we look into its quality. We look into its quality. The quality here is for example, when you meditate, you notice something hard. What element is that? Earth element. Then you notice something softly. What is that? Earth element also. Hard, soft. There are two extremes of an element. It goes either very hard, very soft. Then it falls under the elementary forces of the earth. Then you have hot. Then you have cold. What do you have then? You have a fire element, very clearly. Then you have wind element. What is the wind element then? Motion. And what is the other one? You are the meditator, so you better know. At least concept lah, I'm not asking you first of all. I'm not asking you tomorrow. You notice sitting already. This is earth, meh? This is hardness. This is wind, meh? Not asking you to do that. It's only for the sake of teaching, because you're going to hear these things a lot when you go into other talks and you read books. So the stiffness, for example, of a body, the tension, the distension that arises, kind of like holding together, that one is more also of a wind element. Then what is the water element? Cohesion and dispersion. To understand what is cohesion and dispersion, if a person who makes a lot of bread, self-made bread, if you want to use the dough, and then if you put too much water, what is going to happen to your dough? It's going to be very watery. Dispersion. You put it enough, it holds the flour together, then everything's congealed. Cohesion. So to this body also the same thing. All our things are hold together is because of this water. Your body, your skin, your everything holds together because of water. If you don't believe me, you put yourself in a frying machine, baking, bake enough, and then you put high enough until everything dry. You see what happened to all your bones and your skin and everything? It all disperses away. Just like when you have to collect the ashes. Everything is all burnt away. Nothing left, only ashes left. Something like this. When dispersion is there. So too in this body, we have these different qualities, and all of us here have this different quality. In the Buddha's time, of course, they don't have talking about nitrogen, oxygen, and so on. All these other elementary forces. Even we talk about oxygen or all those things, they too also have motion. They also have hardness. They also have cohesion, and so on. Every of the atoms and so on. So we don't worry about that. Why we are interested here is in the body here, and what are the qualities that can be directly known. You know about these things. Then, what about the mind then? What are the qualities of the mind? What are the different types of mind that you may have? Say an easy one. Anger. Anybody have? Yes, all of us have anger. One quality of a mind. Desire, delusion, sometimes mindfulness, concentration, joy, pleasant feelings, faith, confidence. What else? There's so many things else. Effort, intentions. All these are different states of the mind. And all of us have all these states of the mind, and therefore all these mental states can be directly known. Okay? Can be directly known. It's only whether you are able to train yourself or not. So, tomorrow we will continue on with understanding of this mind and body a little bit here. Tomorrow we'll continue on and we're going to see them a little bit more further in order for the insight to arise. Okay, we stop here for the night.